Okay, so we got Terraform and AWS.
Cool. Yeah, so just a little bit of background. We wanted to use OpenFaaS like we do Lambdas, in the sense that we didn't want to run any extra infrastructure on AWS to use OpenFaaS, but we don't have a Kubernetes cluster to install it on. So I came up with the idea that perhaps we could use Amazon Fargate, which is a serverless platform for running containers. So you can just tell Fargate, run this container. And I thought maybe I could run all the OpenFaaS containers necessary and then just create a provider that would communicate with the API gateway to run new functions. So this is quite early on in that process, but I've got two projects, one of which applies OpenFaaS and gets it installed. And I've used a tool that I'm familiar with, Terraform, to do that. So this project here on GitHub will create an OpenFaaS installation for Fargate. It will create an isolated environment. So at the moment, it doesn't really integrate with an existing VPC. It just creates a completely isolated environment. So it does something like this on this diagram. So it will create a brand new VPC. It will create two subnets, like a public subnet where the API gateway is going to be hosted, and then a private subnet where we run everything else, the containers and the providers and the functions. And then all the sort of standard AWS infrastructure that you need, like an ALB, the NAT gateways, and the internet gateways. So that's that project. And then the provider project, I haven't actually made public yet because I'm still sort of getting it to its first alpha version. And I did demonstrate the basics of it in the last community meetup. So you can use the normal FaaS CLI tool to list your functions out. So you can see here we've got colorize and hello go well too. And then if I go over to the Fargate, you can see there's the OpenFaaS cluster that the Terraform script created. And you can see that we've got the gateway running the ECS provider NATs, and then the functions run and they're sort of suffixed with OpenFaaS hyphen. And then if I go gateway, we can deploy a new function with this. So I can deploy the Figlet as well. Then if you go back into Fargate, it should have, yeah, you can see now it's spinning up a Figlet container. I think the other interesting thing that I solved was how to do service discovery on Fargate without using any more infrastructure. So these services use Amazon's Route 53 service discovery tool. So it's basically just using a private DNS namespace, and then each replica will add an A record to the function's DNS record here. And then we use that record when we talk from the API gateway. The API gateway will call the ECS provider, and then it goes off and looks for a particular instance of that function. And it will use that service discovery DNS to find it. I think the sort of the things that I'm going to work on next is to get Prometheus running in this environment, so that we've got the full OpenFaaS stack running in Fargate. I think that should be quite easy to do. Then after that, I'll look at seeing how we can integrate the secrets. The only thing that I don't think will be possible in Fargate is any sort of file system, because the containers that run in Fargate don't allow any sort of mounting. So to get around this, for Prometheus, I just sort of compiled in the configuration files into a sort of container that derives off of Prometheus. So that was the only sort of constraint with Fargate that I could find.